This is Where We Live from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Catherine Shen. America is obsessed with pickleball. For the fourth year in a row, the Sports and Fitness Industry Association says pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the United States. This hour, we're serving up the story behind why. What's fueling this pickleball craze? Why is it called pickleball anyway? And where can curious beginners go to try it out? Joining me now are three of Connecticut's pickleball industry leaders, Will Meng, professional pickleball player and top Connecticut coach. Will, so great to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
And also with us is Yang Lei Do, who's the co-founder and chief innovation officer for Elevate Pickleball Academy. Yang, appreciate you being here as well.
Thank you for having me here.
And also Trish Jennings, who's the co-owner of Camp Pickleball. Trish, we appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
And for our listeners and also calling all pickleball fans, we will love to hear your story and tell us what is it about this sport that drew you in. Give us a call, 888-720-9677, or leave us a comment on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. So we'll want you to kick us off this sports show for us today. Can you paint a picture for anyone who might not be familiar with pickleball? You know, this game is kind of a cross between tennis, ping pong, and badminton, right?
Yes, it is. So imagine that this kind of court is maybe a quarter the size of a tennis court. Usually are playing doubles, and so there's two players on either side of the net. Instead of a kind of rubber ball or a shuttlecock in badminton, you're using a wiffle ball, using generally kind of paddles in order to hit that ball over, back, and forth. And similar to tennis, you just play until that ball bounces twice.
So I guess are the rules similar to tennis? And I know you used to play tennis, and were those skills sort of transferable for those who might be tennis players and are thinking about crossing over?
Yeah, I definitely recommend tennis players to try out pickleball. Many of the skills are translatable. The hand-eye coordination, that just comes very naturally for tennis players. But it usually takes a little bit of time to get used to the rules. The scoring's different. There is a very unique aspect of pickleball called the kitchen, for anyone who's heard of that. I would say more of pickleball is played as doubles compared to singles like in tennis.
So we'll definitely be digging into all the details about pickleball throughout this conversation. But we did come up with one very important question. One of our colleagues, when they heard we were doing a pickleball show, there's a question that we need answers to is, so I think most of us are familiar with the tennis grunts. So some athletes are very famous for them, as everyone's smiling right now. Are there also pickleball grunts?
It's up to you, anyone can grunt. I would say the sport is not as labor intensive as tennis, but to each their own.
Yeah. Okay. We appreciate that. It's very inclusive. And Trish, another thing that we're really curious about is the sport's name. Do we know why it's called pickleball?
Yes, well, there's a couple different theories out there. The first is it was actually invented off an island in Seattle called Bainbridge Island, and they're known for their pickle boats. And so that is the first theory, and I think it's probably the more accurate theory. And the second theory is that the families that created the sport had a dog named Pickles, and he would go and retrieve the balls. So I think the dog came after the actual invention of the sport, and they just happened to name him Pickles, and he would go get the balls. So I'm pretty sure it's after the boats off of the coast of Bainbridge Island, which were pickle boats.
Well, either, I think, is very sweet.
Dog story's much more cuter, but...
And help me with the vocabulary here. Are there certain terms for pickleball enthusiasts? Because we've heard words like picklers and pickleheads, which I think are fairly common for any hobbyists. So maybe help us not embarrass ourselves when we do hit the courts. Are there any insider language we should know specific to pickleball?
There's a lot of insider language. Will kind of referenced one already, the kitchen. That's kind of a slang term. It's really called the non-volley zone, which is the term for it, but people call it the kitchen. And that's the area where you're not allowed to volley the ball out of the step into it to volley the ball out of the air. But then, yeah, there's a lot of terms that kind of have come about from playing. Different shots have different names named after players and things like that. There's ATPs, which is around the post, so you can actually hit the ball around the post to the other person's side. There's Ernies, where you kind of step out of the court to hit the ball. So yeah, there's a lot of different terms. If you hit somebody with the ball, sometimes it's called a body bag, and so there's other terms that people use that have come up throughout the years.
Well, we're very much going to have to make a whole list after this show.
I would like to add to that, to what Trish and Will both said, that the non-volley zone is called the kitchen. And out of that, people call the player chef. So like if you're partners and you're like, okay, let's do this. And your partner might be like, yes, chef. So there's also the term shake and bake, which is a combination of where your partner drive the ball to the feet of your opponent, forcing them to pop the ball up, and your other partner would go up and poach it. So there's a lot of like kitchen-related terms: shake and bake, poach, chef. Like, and sometime in the younger generations too, I hear them say like, "Let him cook," because he's the chef.
Did not expect all of the food references. I mean, Will, when you mentioned the kitchen, I was thinking, is it like you don't want too many cooks in the kitchen? But I guess it's kind of all related in some way. But Young, I want to ask here too. Is pickleball regional? Because it's gaining a lot of popularity here in Connecticut. But what's the pickleball scene like across the country?
I think pickleball started in Seattle, and because of the pandemic, it really blows up. It's not necessarily regional, but rather it's pockets within region. And obviously, there are some mecca of pickleball, like in Seattle, in Florida, where the weather is really nice and people play a lot. But all it takes is a few people to get the sport started, and soon everyone got curious. They get playing because the community is so welcoming, and the sport has such a low barrier of entry that all it takes is like one pickle head, and then like for me, for example, I started with 4 people. My private group now grows to over 100 people.
Wow.
And they keep wanting to join. And, that's just my private group. So that's not mentioning about like the overall group in the community in New Haven. So they're everywhere. And soon, if you haven't played yet, you will.
All right. I have not played yet, so clearly I will. And speaking of Will, do you remember the first time you picked up a pickleball paddle? And what was it about the game that piqued your interest?
Yeah, so I had always played tennis at this local park in West Hartford called Wolcott Park. The tennis courts are directly across this one fence from really 6 beautiful pickleball courts. And I would go play, with some friends, and the tennis courts would really be empty most of the time. But then the pickleball courts would be full with another 30 to 50 people waiting on the outside, waiting to play. And so definitely piqued my interest. I was like, why is it so popular? Why are so many people playing? And then finally one time I finished tennis and I was like, oh, there's some courts open at pickleball. Let me go walk over. I didn't have a paddle, didn't know how to play the rules at all. Walked in and was like, can I try? And then one of the gentlemen who were there was like, yeah, here's a paddle. He gave me one of his paddles from his bag, brought me onto the court, and I was like, okay, here are the rules. All right. He should have given me a full lesson, but he gave me like 2 minutes, and he's like, okay, we're going to start playing. So he grabbed 2 of his friends. We just started playing and made a ton of errors, but also was getting the ball over after just like 2 minutes when we were playing a full-on game. And that was the first time that I ever played, and I was like, whoa, this is like really fun. And I think just like a really warm, welcoming community. A stranger just taught me how to play a brand new game. And then I would just go back, and then keep playing and keep learning, and people keep teaching me stuff, and here I am now.
When was that moment?
That was around like 3 years ago, I think 2022. During the pandemic, looking
Right.
for something to do.
Well, and crazily enough, you play professionally now. And so talk about that transition, going from that first moment of what game is that can I try to a professional player today?
Yeah, it's definitely been a transition, but I think most of it, I don't think going professional or playing professionally has ever been a specific goal of mine.
Sure.
It was always more of, I just wonder how far I can go with this. And I think that's definitely one of the draws of pickleball is there's just so much to learn, and it's actually quite easy, I think, respective to other racket sports to improve very quickly. I think that's why a lot of individuals really enjoy it, actually, is because you see yourself getting better week to week or month to month. And that kind of just endorphin kick is just really rewarding, to like see yourself improving. And so, yeah, I find myself enjoying the process, enjoying learning, enjoying playing against better players, seeing, new styles, appearing every tournament I go to. And just the challenge of, being in that kind of high intensity environment and pushing myself. I think that's just been actually one of the big joys of pickleball for me.
Well, and we know a lot of people are feeling joyful about that right now because we are in peak pickleball season right now with the warm temperatures. Trish, something that motivated you to open Camp Pickleball was weather, right? Can you
Of course.
give us a little bit of an idea how that happened.
So, I own the company with my husband and one other partner, Nate Rule. And, they started playing like in the fall one year and then got really into the game and we're playing 7 times a week, basically every morning. And then the first winter came and they're like, uh-oh, what do we do? We're used to playing every day. And so they were going to a couple different places that like playing on gymnasium floors that, weren't suited for pickleball. Or they had to drive, almost an hour and a half to get to, a tennis facility maybe that was lined for pickleball courts. And we just kind of said, there's definitely a need here. Why isn't anybody doing it? We all 3 of us love the sport. Obviously, playing 7 days a week. And we just kind of said, there's a need here. Let's create it and let's create a community. And it's been great. We've been open now for going on 7 months, and this is our, we opened at the fall and we had a very successful winter, and we're still into the spring now and going into the summer, and we still have found that people now like playing indoors even when the weather's nice because they don't have to worry about any elements. They don't have to worry about the sun in their eyes or the wind at their back or coming to them, or, is it going to rain today, or will the court still be wet? So, it started off as a winter thing because we couldn't play in snow, but now it's really because of the New England weather and variability in it. It's really become very popular to play indoors year round.
Well, and young, it sounds like a lot of people discover pickleball through a desire to be outside, to do something, or to find community. When did you discover pickleball? Was there something specific that sparked your interest?
Yeah, I saw pickleball and in my side view like years ago when I was just walking the park and walk past a tennis court. And I was like, oh, this is like a kid's toy, it's just like backyard. And then fast forward 2 years ago when I left corporate world and start my own ventures in product development consulting with the sustainability aspect. Being an entrepreneur is really, really stressful. A lot of people think that it sounds romantic, but it's like super stressful. And one day, I'm always like looking for ways to de-stress. So one day my friend told me about pickleball. And at that time, I also really missed playing badminton growing up. And like I love any paddle sports, so I was like, it looks like kids' toy, but why not? I'm trying to de-stress,
Right.
And so he lent me his paddle. It was really, really heavy. And we just like hit the ball around, and I had such a good time just like hearing the ball hit my paddle. And after just like half an hour even session, it was like in November too, and being outdoor, it gave me such a endorphins rush. And so I kept coming back. I bought my own paddle. And because of my badminton background, I thought that, wow, this is like my second love, because badminton was my first love. So this is my second love. And I felt like I could do really good in this. So I got a coach. I got a group of friends together. Will was actually one of my first coach at Blaze at the time. And then I participated in tournaments, and I found that there are aspects in sports that really helps with strengthening my mentality, whether de-stressing or just overcoming hardships when there are like hard times in life or in my career. Sports tend to give me that validation and also strengthening that I need to move forward and thrive.
Well, and I love it when something like a sport kind of goes beyond the actual activity itself. And Will, your own journey to pursuing pickleball full-time was also unique. And it sounds like between our guests today, there's sort of a thread, a theme of transitions, discovering pickleball. Can you talk about how you made the switch from being an engineer to becoming a pickleball coach, and talk about that need for connection with others that played into your decision?
Yeah. So before I, became full-time pickleball player and pickleball coach, I did 6 years of corporate in aerospace engineering. And even though I think I was very good at the work that I did, a part of the day-to-day that I longed for was more relationship and more connection. And just being behind a desk job, especially with engineering, there wasn't a lot of interactions that kind of fed that longing of mine. So I actually took a kind of sabbatical in the summer of 2023. I quit my job, and I was like, I'm just going to take 6 months off and kind of discover myself, see what happens. And when I came out of that, it wasn't part of my intention to go into pickleball either. I was looking for more engineering jobs, actually, but it wasn't landing. I wasn't finding the type of roles that I wanted. And so I started just a kind of part-time coaching job at Blaze Pickle, which Young mentioned. Used to be in Guilford, now it's in Newington. And one of the first lessons that I had was a beginner's clinic. A couple of ladies came in; they were wanting to try out the sport. And one question I loved to ask was, "What is bringing you to pickleball? Like, why are you curious right now?" And one of the ladies said, "Like, oh, I just don't really have any like hobbies right now." And I was like, "Oh, like what do you do for fun?" She's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I do for fun." And so I think that was a moment for me that I realized, oh, like pickleball and the work that I'm doing in bringing this sport and bringing kind of almost a tool that this person can use in their life, of just an activity that they can then go to any public court, to any recreation center, and start playing with someone else. That is actually going beyond the sport. It's bringing about connection. It's bringing about community. It's bringing about joy for this person. And I think that's where I found a lot of meaning in the work that I did. And I was like, oh, this is really important. And that's, kind of how I started.
It's amazing what life does.
It's true. Yeah, I never imagined that. And I met so many cool people along the way too.
Yeah, and along those lines, Trish, I want to ask you here too, in terms of beyond the physical activity, getting to come and sort of work out a sweat and feel good about yourself physically. Do you watch the players who come to Camp Pickleball walk away with friendships and those connections?
It's amazing. The friendships that have been built here since we opened is just absolutely amazing. It's bringing people together that normally would not cross paths. We represent so many different age groups and ethnicities. And it's just great to see lifelong friendships that are, being made from the sport.
You've been listening to Trish Jennings, who's the co-owner of Camp Pickleball, a sports club in Plainville here in Connecticut. Also, Will Mung, who's the professional pickleball player and Connecticut coach. Also, Young Lei Do, who's the co-founder and chief innovation officer at Elevate Pickleball Academy. After the break, we're going to be asking, is pickleball truly for everyone? Join the conversation, 888-720-9677, or find us on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. This is Where We Live from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Catherine Shen. Pickleball is America's fastest growing sport, and Connecticut is a hub for pickleball facilities and enthusiasts. Or if you're a picklehead, you are here in a safe space to talk about this amazing sport here with Will Mung, Young Lei Do, and also Trish Jennings, who are three industry leaders right here in Connecticut. And for our friends and listeners, let us know if you have any questions about pickleball or if you want to share your stories. We would love to hear from you. Give us a call, 888-720-9677, or leave us a comment on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. So, Young, I want to dig into the accessibility of pickleball here. I know we talked a little bit about it earlier. Is this a sport that is welcoming to everyone? And how can leaders in the pickleball world, like yourself, work to make the sport more inclusive?
Yes, pickleball definitely has a really low barrier of entry. So unlike tennis, for example, where you need to take a lessons, and in order for you to have any fun at all, you need to know how to serve, know how to, get the ball many, many feet across the net, because like the tennis court in comparison to pickleball court is 3-4 times as long. The other aspect besides the skills is the community, because like Will mentioned earlier, it's actually pretty common where someone show up and they might just watch, and if they're bold, they can ask like, "Hey, what is this? Mm-hmm. Like, can I try?" My group and I sometimes invite people into our group and rotate, because there's such a high demand for court space that we want to include everyone so that they get to play. And out of that experience, we just keep making more and more friends. And that inclusivity is what I love about pickleball. Outside of that, I find pickleball to be such a sport that welcomes everyone from different ethnicity, different generations, different economic background. In fact, as a co-president of the NAP, which is a National Association of Asian American Professionals chapter in Connecticut, we are hosting a pickleball networking event as a way for the AAPI professional community to learn how to play pickleball, because believe it or not, pickleball is replacing golf as the professional, networking sport. So our goal is to let people, just break the ice using a fun sport, an easy sport like pickleball, and then from there, that builds the foundation for them to build relationship, professional or personal. Another aspect I mentioned, generational inclusivity, is as some of you pickleheads might already know, and in fact, some people might discriminate pickleball a little bit. I'm like, oh, it's old people sports. That is so not true, because people from all age play pickleball. And if you look down on older people for playing pickleball, well, you're in for a rude awakening, because they will definitely serve you. I
was gonna say destroy, but serve is
I try to be a PG-13. But it's so fun, you don't really see many occasions where older and young people kind of just commingle and coexist, but pickleball is one of them. In fact, my mom and I, we don't really have much in connection because I won't get too much into it because like I'm an immigrant and we're immigrant family. You know, she has to work a lot, so she doesn't really have time for social life.
Right.
But we bond over pickleball. Like I would take her out in the court and lo and behold, she went from a single mom raising 2 children as an immigrant to playing pickleball and having a community of her own. So that's just a few of my example of the power of pickleball that brings community together.
Well, and Trish, I think that's an amazing story, Young, to share. And I think the beautiful thing about pickleball is I just had no idea about how community building it can be. But the intergenerational connection is certainly something that really jumped out to me as I was learning more about the sport. And Trish, because we're talking about different levels of inclusivity with sports. And we know with many sports, many hobbies, finances is a big barrier to entry. Money is a big barrier to entry. What is that like in pickleball? And because it sounds like the entry to get in is lower than most sports.
Yes. I just want to add on the generational thing too. We have our youngest members are 5 years old and our oldest I think we have is 88. So I just want to say that it's literally a sport for any generation. And the best is when we had Thanksgiving and Christmas and we had families come in and book courts together. And sometimes we had, 3 or 4 generations on the court at the same time. So that was just great. But financially, yes, it is a lower barrier to entry. Most of all the public courts are free, and some just have residential stipulations. But for the most part, it's free to go out to your public parks and start playing. You can get a starter paddle and balls for, probably $25 to $50, as people progress on the sport. Obviously the paddles can get more expensive and the equipment can get more expensive, but, it's, you're looking at startup fee, only $25 to $50, and you can go out there, and play the sport. So yeah, it's definitely financially, it's more accessible to the majority of Americans.
Well, it's funny because as both of you, Trish and Young, were sharing the intergenerational stories, I had an image that popped into my head because I was also a former badminton player, and I had an 80-plus-year-old player play in this court next to me. And I just remember thinking, and he was going at it. And when I was thinking about the word destroyed, I was actually thinking about him because he absolutely destroyed the player he was playing with who was a lot younger. There's nothing more humbling than seeing a player like that. And I think I was actually a teenager. So I was in my 16, 17-year-old seeing an 80-year-old. That's like goals that I want to, just half of that health, I will be really happy with myself. And so thanks for reminding me of that memory. And it's all kinds of inclusivity. I think we're talking here today about pickleball. And I think another barrier that people tend to fight against is not knowing if you're good enough.
Right.
And that could be physically or psychologically. So, Will, I want to ask you here, is skill being a barrier? Nobody wants to be out there feeling self-conscious when they're playing. Would you say that pickleball remains accessible for all skill levels, or has it become more competitive?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when pickleball first started booming 3-4 years ago, everyone was kind of around the same skill level. Mm-hmm. And so you really could just hop in whenever, right? And no one is ever that exceedingly better than you. It is interesting because I found that over the last couple of years, many more people have been playing, and they now have 3, 4, maybe 5 years under their belt. And so I've definitely noticed this trend where there are more pockets of players, right? And it's very common. Some advanced players, right, may not want to come spend their precious free time to play with a new beginner, right? But I do think that because of the culture of the sport, with many players, even advanced players, once being taught by someone just at the park, there is this pay it forward mentality where if someone were to ever come and ask me, hey, can you just teach me a little bit? I think that because of my own story of how I started playing, yeah, I'd be very inclined to, still teach and to still offer that. And so, yeah, I think there are more, skill gaps now, but I think that culture remains.
Trish, is that something that you're seeing as well?
Yes, and I was going to add to that. So that was actually one of the reasons why, I felt there was a need to open a pickleball facility, because you would go to the public courts and there was a disparity in skill level. So what we do here at Camp Pickleball is we have all of our open plays based on skill. So you're only playing people within your skill level. So it's less intimidating, especially for new people playing. But it's also better for the people that have been playing a while, who want to, be a little bit more competitive and play with people at their own skill level, because it is also the kind of sport where you're not going to get any better if you're not playing people kind of at your skill level.
Right.
And so that's what's great about our open plays, that they're all sectioned off into each skill level, and so that no one feels intimidated or feels like maybe they're not getting to where they need to be in their pickleball journey because of that. But it's also great because it produces an open play that is competitive no matter what the skill level is. Because ultimately, that's what's great about any sport, right? It's competition. That's what makes it a sport. But it's not, we want fair competition.
Sure.
And so that's what the skilled leveled open plays do, is they create fair competition. And that's what's fun about it.
Right. So you can go either competitive or recreationally, just depending on who's on the court. And it sounds like that's really fun for any player to go into, knowing that there is a safe ground to sort of pick and choose and talking about right. And then talking about pickleball journeys. Young, what comes next to you in the pickleball world? How are you looking forward to growing the sport that you've come to love so much?
Yes. So 2 years ago, I picked it up. I was like, I can go pro on this. And I attempted many times. I'm still trying. But what I've noticed in my attempt in going pro is that besides the technical skills, there are other aspects that you need to develop. I touched a little bit on the sports mentality, the sports psychology that help with my coping mechanism in life. But believe it or not, when you're in a competitive environment, having a strong and resilience mentality is also really important. And so like I learned that firsthand, right, from putting myself into competitive environments like tournaments, league play. There are other aspects of pickleball that I previously failed to follow, and now I'm paying for it with injuries. And that is physical conditioning, which is really, really important, because what you're looking at is a sport that is super easy to get into, super easy to learn to get better. So there are like multiple videos on YouTube that anyone can just watch and teach themselves different skills and level up. What they miss a lot is the physical strengthening aspect of it. And then the fourth aspect is the tactical, which is like strategy, partner working. So my next chapter here is, besides trying to become a pro myself, is actually founding this Elevate Pickleball Academy that combines all four aspects of technical, tactical, physical training, and sports mentality to help serious pickleball players who want to advance and, either on-court or off-court training, level up their skills or strengthening their mentality through sports. And so this is a very exciting new chapter for me to found Pickleball Academy, the Elevate Pickleball Academy, and really help creating well-rounded athletes on and off courts.
We got about 30 seconds here. Will, where do you hope pickleball goes from here?
Yeah, I hope it continues to grow, and I hope that there's a lot more access for anyone who wants to play. I hope there are more beginner clinics. I hope that there's more access to neighborhoods that otherwise, if there are no courts, access to opportunities to learn, opportunities for kids to get into the sport more, more of the intergenerational aspects. Just more connection all over.
Will Mung, professional pickleball player and top Connecticut coach here. Will, thank you so much for joining the show and sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having me.
You are also listening to Young Lei Do, who's the co-founder and chief innovation officer at Elevate Pickleball Academy. Young, wonderful to have you.
It's great to be here.
Trish Jennings, who's the co-owner of Camp Pickleball Sports Club in Plainville here in Connecticut. Trish, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
After the break, we're joined by two pickleball enthusiasts who also happen to be a couple married for over 40 years. Stay tuned to hear how pickleball has changed their lives. Join the conversation, 888-720-9677, or find us on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. This is Where We Live from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Catherine Shen. This hour, we're serving up the story behind America's pickleball craze. We're asking, what is it about this sport that has so many people Googling the phrase, how to play pickleball, and elbowing their neighbors for a spot on the court? Joining me now, Ruth Martin and Lou Martin. Ruth and Lou are self-proclaimed pickleball enthusiasts. Ruth and Lou, thank you so much for being here today.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
So Ruth, I want to start with you here. How did you discover pickleball? Who got you hooked?
Well, actually, it was through my golf friend. After a game, we sit around and just have a beverage and we talk. And she said, you would really like playing pickleball. I said, oh, what is it? I've never heard of it. So she explained it, and we didn't really do anything right away. But over time, she kept mentioning it. So I think it was the year during the pandemic. We both had COVID. And it was during the holidays, and we said, let's do something. We need to go outside. So we ordered some pickleball paddles on Amazon, and they came the next day, and we just went to a local park at the tennis courts, and we just started hitting the ball over the net. And then that was pretty much it. And then we took a lesson, and she taught us the rules. And that's when I think we got obsessed with the game.
Love a start of an obsession.
Yes.
What was it like being on the court for the first time, playing for the first time?
It was exciting because I'm a very competitive person. So it definitely had that element in it. So that's...
Well, Lou, what about you? What was it about pickleball that kept sort of bringing you back?
Well, as a competitive person myself, as you age, all the things that you did as you were growing, you don't get much better at them as you get older. And this is one of the sports that even as you're aging, you can get better at this sport if you keep playing and practicing and such. So that whole element of growing is what drove me to keep playing. So it is the sport that you can get better at even as you age.
Right.
So that's what I like about it.
Well, it's really fun to hear both of you sort of find this newfound obsession. I think we're all kind of looking for that next hobby or that next thing that can keep our attention span longer. And we've been talking about accessibility a lot this hour when it comes to pickleball. Ruth, did you ever feel intimidated when you first started playing? And are pickleball players generally welcoming to newcomers? Because it feels like it's a very welcoming and friendly space to be in.
It definitely is. Before we started playing, we met up with that girl who introduced me to pickleball. And she also had a friend who played. So that's how we started playing. We needed to know the rules, how to play in a foursome. And it was a little intimidating at first, but I think as we played and as we drilled, we just became better and we just built up our confidence. And that was helpful. for
Well,
us.
and Lou, you mentioned earlier too that it's a sport that you can improve as you age, which is not something that is apparent, I think, for a lot of sports. And as a competitive person, what are your thoughts about that? Knowing that there is something out there that you can improve with age.
Well, definitely, as I said earlier, as you get older and you got this clock over your head, it's harder to get good at doing things. Some of the sports that I did growing up, I sensed that I was hitting a plateau at and not moving forward, which I still enjoyed. But this game, just like every time you'd go, you'd get this a bit of adrenaline rush, and that feeling of when you were younger, that you're getting better little by little, and it is little by little, but you still see little progress every time you play. So that's what the drive is for me. It's just getting better, even at this stage in life, which is great.
Well, as we were talking about what a friendly, warm space this can be in, when you see someone walk into Camp Pickleball, for example, are you likely to help them out since that's how you were received when you were getting started in the sport?
Oh yes, oh yes. It's very welcoming. People come in, and you sense whether they're intimidated or they're uncertain or something like that. And from our experiences, we just say hello to just about anybody, and we ask them how their game is going, or if they're enjoying themselves, and at the end of the day, make them feel relaxed when they come in, and that's important, to feel relaxed when you're in a facility of unknown.
Right. Absolutely. We love being relaxed. And
Yeah.
and what's it like going from someone who has no idea what the sports was into someone who does help other people become relaxed on the courts?
Yeah, it's been a transition. I never thought 5 years ago I'd be where I am today. I know retirement was, I had an idea of what I'd be doing, but pickleball has pretty much redirected or directed me in a way that I never thought that I'd be going. So it's a lot of fun. It's what we think about just about every morning when we get up and we look at the calendar. When are we playing? Where are we playing this week? But it's a big part of our lives. Huge.
Yeah. Nothing like that kind of drive.
Yeah.
Well, and it sounds like the common thread continues from our previous guest. It's all about transitioning, doing new things, and making new friends. And a question comes to mind as I'm talking to both of you. Ruth, I have to ask, did you expect to be playing against your spouse of almost 43 years now, especially since both of you are very competitive people? Has it ever led to any disagreements?
Well, I prefer playing on the same side as Louis as opposed to across from him.
All right.
Because he doesn't let up. If he plays across from me, he just lets me have it. But playing together, I mean, there are definitely some moments. I didn't realize how competitive he really was, because this is the only sport we play together.
Right.
So he can get very intense. In open play, he's less intense, a little more fun. But in tournament play, he's very intense.
So you learn something new, right?
Yes, definitely.
What about you, Lou?
Well, yeah, there's rec play, there's tournament play, there's league play. So, your intensity and anxiety or whatever how you play is different, and how you feel relaxed or less relaxed is different for all levels, all those different categories of play. But yeah, I mean, you get, I mean, after a lot of years of being together, it is just pickleball. So you might get anxious on the court,
Sure.
Because maybe your partner isn't, getting every ball. But at the end of the day, there is that aspect of in competitive play. I have to realize that she's getting probably 75% of the balls. And so she's getting more hits than I am. So, of course, more errors happen because she's seeing more balls. And, you just have to, when you're done, win or lose, let it go, move on to the next game, and we do have some quiet moments going home in the car sometimes, but when we get home, it's done. You think about the next time, and you live and learn.
As Ruth looks at me and smiles. Well, and another thing I think coming out of pickleball is friendships, and especially talking about transitioning into retirement. Is friendship something that you didn't expect playing pickleball? Ruth, go with you first.
Definitely. Because I'm a timid person, and it's hard for me to come out of my shell sometimes. Mm-hmm. But pickleball has definitely changed that, because when you're on the court, you're not thinking about your insecurities or whatever. You just go out and play. Mm-hmm. So I've developed a lot of friendships through pickleball, which has been great.
You're too focused on needing to win against Lou.
Yeah.
I know. And Lou, what about yourself? Because you mentioned talking about transitioning into retirement. You had some plans. Was friendship a part of that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've played at different facilities throughout the 4 or 5 years, and we've made a group of friends in every single facility that we've been to, and where we're at now at Camp Pickleball, it's just like a whole new family of friends over there, and 99% of everybody's happy and fun, and we always get one or two prickly players here and there, but that's just in any sport, and you just kill everybody with kindness, and there's it wears on them, Right. It gets on them.
Well, and we mentioned how intergenerational this sport can be, and even just for this conversation today, our guests have all been very intergenerational. What advice would you give to someone listening right now, regardless of what age group that they're in, who may want to start playing pickleball but have no idea where to start?
Well, first step, usually it's either a family member or a friend that will invite them over, and it is a little intimidating, but once they step foot on the court, the laughter starts, the giggling starts, and the fooling around starts, and that's where I think a lot of the fun happens, and that's why I even enjoy going on those courts, because everybody's just giggling and laughing and just making fun of each other. So just expect it to be fun in the beginning. There's no doubt about it. As it gets serious, well, it gets serious. But in the beginning, it's a lot of fun, and that's where I think you get the drive to get better, want to get better.
Mm-hmm. Well, we love some giggling when you're doing something serious.
And, yeah.
Just to finish off here, Ruth, you mentioned being timid, but this is something that you can focus on and not think about that. So I guess from an introvert to other introverts who might be listening, what would you tell them?
Just do it. Because it's such a fun sport. It really is. And it's really not that intimidating, actually, once you start playing. It really isn't.
Well, just do it is the perfect advice.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that. You have all been listening to Ruth Martin. Ruth, thank you so much for sharing your story with us about pickleball.
Thank you.
You are also listening to Lou Martin. Lou, it was such a pleasure having you on as well.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Catherine Shen. Today's show is produced by Chloe Wynn. Our technical producer is Jane Armatruda. Download Where We Live anytime on your favorite podcast app. Thank you all so much for listening, and happy pickleballing, everyone.